The early to mid-90s saw Michael Landau birth two original projects, Burning Water and The Raging Honkies. Whereas Burning Water, also featuring the late great Carlos Vega, leaned hard into Mike's blues rock roots, The Raging Honkies saw the encroachment of a more modern influence, Seattle grunge. Mike was quoted in an interview as saying, "I was a big fan of Nirvana and all that Seattle stuff. I just loved his songs and voice. Nirvana's songs were a twisted thing, and that was refreshing to me because I was done with all the big hair metal bands at that point. At the end of the 80s, it was really silly." One of the most interesting characteristics of grunge and early 90s alternative rock was the use of non-diatonic harmony. Kurt Cobain in particular often utilised what can be described in theoretical terms as chromatic mediants. The mediants within a key are the 3 and 6 chord. In the key of C, this would be E minor and A minor. We can chromaticize these in 3 ways. We can majorize them. So E minor becomes E major and A minor becomes A major. We can lower their tonic by a semitone. E minor becomes E flat minor, A minor becomes A flat minor. Or we can do both. E minor becomes E flat major and A minor becomes A flat major. In relation to the tonic, this creates 2 major chords a tone and a half apart from each other. We can see this in the intro to In Bloom, as well as many other Nirvana songs. In the opening track, which was Roodis by The Raging Honkies, we see Mike utilising non-diatonic harmony in a very similar way. We see lots of major chords separated by either a tone and a half or 2 tones. But this kind of progression presents a challenge when improvising because it is no longer possible, or at least optimal, to use a single scale over the whole progression. In fact, we hear Mike very proactively negotiating and outlining the changes throughout. The purpose of this video is to teach you 2 techniques to do the same. Now, although the focus of this video is around a song that features a lot of non-diatonic harmony, the same principles can also be applied to simpler progressions. The first technique we're going to focus on is changing pentatonic scales with each chord. For expediency, we're going to focus on one specific bar within the progression, which is C to E. This is a good example to look at because that is not a relationship that occurs diatonically within any major key. So this is a great example of chromatic mediants. Before we get started, it's worth noting that if you aren't yet confident with the 5 shapes of the major and minor pentatonic scale, you need to work on that first. My advice when learning scales is always to practice them from root to root, not simply from the lowest string to the highest string, and to recite the intervals as you are playing through the scale. For example, if we were to take C major pentatonic in the 3rd position, I'd be starting at the root, and as I played through the scale, I would be reciting the intervals root, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, root, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, root, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, root, 6th, 5th, 6th, root. So we start on the root, we go as high as the position allows, as low as the position allows, we return to the root all the while reciting the intervals. Now, a trap many guitar players will fall into when negotiating playing through changes is simply to relocate a shape they are familiar with to a different part of the fretboard. So for example, if we were playing from C to E, we might see something like As you can imagine, it's difficult to establish any sense of flow when playing like this, particularly when the changes are occurring quickly. Instead, we need to consider what chord is coming next in our progression and where the nearest root note is to where we are currently residing. That will dictate which pentatonic scale is most appropriate to adopt. So if we are beginning by playing our C major pentatonic scale in the 3rd position, we know that we are wanting to move to an E major. So we have a few options, right? We have an E here, but that takes us out of position. And we have the open E, which is closer, but it still takes us out of position. So the most logical choice is the root note that resides here on the 2nd fret of the D string. Now, if we refer to our 5 shapes of the major pentatonic scale, you will see that that leaves us with one obvious choice. So to begin with, we'll practice this scale in the same manner that we did previously, starting and ending at the root, exploring the full range of the scale within that position. Running through the intervals either verbally or cerebrally as you do so. Now comes the hard part. Another temptation that guitar players fall prey to is to situate themselves by playing the new scale from the root note. Again, this makes it challenging to facilitate the continuation of musical ideas if we constantly have to break off from whatever melody we're creating to find the nearest root note. Therefore, our challenge in this exercise is to maintain the direction that we're going in, whether that be ascending or descending, and at the moment that the chord changes, we move to the nearest available scale tone within the new pentatonic scale. To begin with, I'm going to demonstrate this by simply looping C to E major, playing each chord for 2 beats while I play through the scales, ascending and descending in 8th notes, and you should be able to hear the change. So here we go, 3 and 4 and... This time I'm going to acknowledge the push that happens within the track. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm going to try and represent that within the exercise. So we get... Ultimately, we want to roll this principle out to the whole progression. If that seems like a lot, simply break it down into its component sections, dealing with just 2 or 3 chords at a time. This will help you greatly in learning how to negotiate chord changes confidently and melodically. There's something cool about using pentatonic scales for this exercise because they reside in the middle of triads, i.e. chord tones, and full 7-note scales. They give you a little more tension and contrast than triads without the overwhelming optionality of using a full mode for every chord. The second technique we're exploring today focuses around Mike's use of Hendrix-isms. Roodis features several passing chords that don't last long enough to warrant being outlined by their own scales. Mike instead deals with these through use of Hendrixian double stops. There is a simple formula for this kind of playing. The secret, again, resides within pentatonic scales. To demonstrate, I'm going to use the 5th position of the C major pentatonic scale. What we're looking for are major second intervals separated by 1 tone or 2 frets. So within this shape, we can see that on the G string, the D string, and on the A string, we have major second intervals. To create Hendrixian sounding double stops, we are simply going to hammer between 2 of those notes while encompassing the string above with our index finger. So for example, if we're on the G string, I'm going to hammer between the 5th and the 7th fret of the G, but I'm going to bar to incorporate the 5th fret of the string above it. And we can do that on each set of strings, like so. And each of these can be embellished in different ways. We can either keep things very simple, we can add a little more decoration, or a little more. You can look towards either Mike himself, or go to the source, Jimmy, or even to Stevie Ray Vaughan for inspiration. We hear Mike using this approach to deal with faster changes such as the B, C, D segment of the chord progression, which we hear in the solo as The combination of these two approaches will have you navigating any set of changes musically and confidently. If you are enjoying these videos or learning something, you can support me in making more of them through the Session Heroes Patreon page. To provide the best experience possible for you, I disable adverts for my videos, meaning that I don't make any money from YouTube. So in supporting me through Patreon, you'll not only be helping me make more videos, but you'll also get access to plenty of extra benefits. These include transcriptions in standard notation and tablature for all of the tracks that I cover on this channel, the backing tracks that I recreate from scratch so that labels don't put adverts on my videos, as well as at least 2 top drawer licks a month and discounts on my Kemper Pack. To those of you who already do support me through Patreon, thank you so much, it means the world. I hope you found this video useful. It's a deep subject and it takes time to internalize these ideas, but I hope I've at least provided you with a starting point. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, and I will see you all again soon.